Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. It is 1 p.m. here, Friday, February 8th, and our show is brought to you in part by our friends at No Naturals. I will bring up a little bit more information on No Naturals. I need to edit something because there is a Super Bowl special with them right now, so I'm updating that. So give me half a second. Should have done that in preps, but I just walked up here and am knocking the show out quickly. Obviously, a lot of stuff going on here in the world. There we go. You can read all about our friends at No Naturals down in the scroll. I will read a little commercial for them here in a second. Good people, great product over at nonaturals.com. So, what's going on, people? The Bill O'Brien era is over. 3 weeks? Was it 3 weeks? This goes back and reminds me of Urban putting together his first coaching class. Bill Sheridan, if you don't recognize the name, that's okay. He came in and then he departed quickly as well. So this is not completely unprecedented, but probably not exactly what anybody involved wants to be going through. You have Ryan Day going through a list of names, picks the name he wants, gets him to sign on the dotted line. 3 weeks later, he's off. Damn that Jeff Hafley. Damn that Jeff Hafley. It's twice. This is twice. Leaves Ohio State after a year to go take over the BC job. Then says, deuces, I'm out. I'm leaving BC, and creating another coaching vacancy directly, indirectly. So I know there's a good relationship between those two, but maybe no Christmas card this year. There's a long time until December, so a long time to forget about this. And if Ohio State is able to win a lot of games and the right games, probably won't even really be talked about at that point. But Bill O'Brien, as I have said, has moved on. We will go through a couple of your questions and comments, and then we will talk some more about the Bill O'Brien situation, answer your questions as well. I'm trying to keep this show between 30 and 60 minutes. You often keep me here longer. That's okay. We'll see what the traffic is. I did get some promotional things out in advance of the show, but not a ton. So we'll see what happens. But it generally starts off very low, get about 30 minutes in. We're rolling. Questions coming, everything else. And then I feel bad. I don't want to end the show at that point. People are just like, oh, I just found you. I didn't know. But if you want to know when we're on, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell. Don't miss a single episode here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Not only my great programming, if I do say so myself, but Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, Buckeye Weekly Podcast, Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, all great products here as part of Buckeye Huddle. And while we're getting the housekeeping out of the way, why not sign up for BuckeyeHuddle.com? Check us out. Really the most chill, relaxed message board in all of Buckeye Nation. Great football coverage, basketball coverage, recruiting coverage, all of that, only at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Give us a check. Just check us out there. Check us out. You won't be disappointed. And to wrap up the housekeeping, a little live read on a commercial. Are you ready for an entirely different edible experience? Welcome to No Naturals, where we're shattering the stereotype of one-note, slow-acting gummies. Forget waiting over an hour for the effects. Our gummies are fast-acting in just 15 to 30 minutes. You're not just choosing a flavor, you're choosing your vibe. With 5 core experiences and 6 custom combos, you're in full control. Whether it's energy and focus without the crash, a peaceful slumber that lasts all night, or a game-changing burst of bliss and euphoria, these edibles are the real deal. And the best part, you don't need a doctor's recommendation. No Natural gummies are dispensary quality and discreetly delivered right to your door. So whether you're craving a productivity boost, a good night's sleep, or some blissful euphoria, say hello to No Naturals. Try them today and use code SUPER20. This is a limited run code here leading up to the Super Bowl. So this is the last show I'm doing with this code, SUPER20, for 20% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. Don't miss out. Know your edibles, know your experience. No Naturals. So there you go. I want to thank the folks over at No Naturals for everything. My eyesight's getting worse, so I'm having a hard time reading the comments unless I put them up on the screen. So we'll do our best here. Hopefully, I don't put up anything that I regret. Billy Tuesday, who is a new member over at Buckeye Huddle. Howdy, Kevin. The offseason crazy continues. Doug Shepard. Hey, Billy Tuesday. I've never seen anything like this, and I've been a Buckeyes fan and follower since the early 70s. You see, and I thought I was, I was born in the early 70s. So Doug's got me beat right there. What we got here? We got Fisherman. Day is so elite. He made Bob a head coach in 3 weeks. Absolutely. Absolutely. Odysseus. What did Day do to Halfley? Guy keeps screwing him over. We talked about that briefly here at the top of the show. Good friend of the show, Steve Buckholz, Chip Kelly. We'll get into that here in a minute. Jordan Kapler. Kevin can vouch for me. I should be the next OC. First order of business is banning Tom Orr from the Woody. But then I'd have to do more work. I'd have to do more stuff myself. So how about Tom Orr is not banned from the Woody, but that he has to, I don't know, he has to go through winter conditioning or something like that. And then we get the rights to shoot all the video and post it and then laugh at him. We got Steve saying Chip Kelly as well. That seems to be the name that a lot of people have. We'll get into the pluses and minuses of that in a minute. Kirk Bender, will this put a chip on our shoulders? Everybody going for it. Jordan Kapler doesn't want him wearing any Mets gear. Me either. I mean, it's harmless. But whatever. And then right here, Billy Tuesday, how long have you had that in the arsenal, Kirk? Let me make sure I got that. Yeah, the chip in the shoulder. There you go. So we're caught up at this point. So be sure to get your questions in. I'll try and do my best to get to them. Hosting and producing does not always work well for me in getting questions through the system as quickly as I'd like to. Going to the eye doctor here in 3 weeks. They're going to yell at me. They're going to be like, how long has it been since you were last here? And I'm going to say 4 years. They're like, you can't see anything out of your glasses, can you? I'm like, no, not really. I can see shapes, but reading the text has been an issue. So where does Ohio State go from here? Ryan Day met with the media this week and obviously was asked about Bill O'Brien and his status. And rightfully, Ryan Day couldn't really say much because this was something that was largely out of his control. Ohio State was never going to be able to match the money that Bill O'Brien would get as a head coach at a Power 4 program, even if it was Boston College. Jeff Halfley was making somewhere around $4 million a year. Bill O'Brien comes in with much more experience, and we know that the only time that you ever make money is when you take a new job or the job goes up on scale. This isn't a minimum wage job where you're making $7.25 and the next guy's going to make $7.25 and the next guy's going to make $7.25 after that. Dollars, not million. So let's just say he's making 4.2 or 4.25. Ohio State was not going to be able to match that because here's the thing. Ohio State, limitless coffers. Ohio State can do whatever the hell it wants. Not really. First of all, that money has to come from somewhere. Secondly, and probably more importantly, you start paying this guy $4 million. Your guy that's making $2 million is going to want more. Your guy that's making $750,000 is going to want more. Your guy that's making $400,000 is going to want more. At the end of the day, everybody's got to be loyal to, themselves and their family and everything else. So there are a lot of issues there. And Bill O'Brien's a guy who's been a head coach before. And certainly that's the goal. Now, this Boston College job is a bear. It is a bear. You're not going to win there. I'm sorry. And this is not anything of, oh, sour grapes, Bill O'Brien spurned Ohio State. Noon's going to sit there and just talk about how crappy BC is. No, I'm going to talk about how crappy BC is because of how crappy BC is. Boston College is a bottom job in certainly not a top 2 conference in the nation. The ACC is ripping itself apart. May not have happened yet, but it's happening. The ACC is ripping itself apart. I don't see any scenario of where Boston College is on the coattails of anybody to go to a major conference, a more major conference. Sure, that you get the Boston TV market, you get the Manchester, New Hampshire TV market, you get some of these other markets. I mean, you may even be able to infringe upon Hartford. I mean, even though they've got UConn. But with that being said, there's not as much of a draw there to take a loss to hand out another share to a program that's just not really going to offer anything. There's not a natural recruiting footprint there. Yes, Michigan had done a pretty good job of recruiting Massachusetts and Connecticut, but that is not the reason why Michigan has won some games. So I'm just not exactly sure what the goal is. It's been a long time. Tom O'Brien is not walking through that door. I don't think that as we have had more separation with your haves and your have-nots in college football, I don't see a scenario of where BC is going to have any sustained success. I mean, maybe it breaks through one year and goes 8-4. Maybe. I mean, maybe if Florida State and Clemson and some of these other guys leave the conference and it backfills from like the American or somebody else, maybe there's a chance for more, but you're not going to be competing at the highest levels. So I think there's a lot more to this decision. Obviously, Bill O'Brien has a special needs child that being home and being familiar with hospitals in Boston and everything else. And that's not to say that he couldn't have had the same care in Columbus, Ohio. Obviously, he accepted the job. There was the belief there, but sometimes it's larger than that. And it's not like BC is going to move on in 3 years. They're gonna ride this out for a little bit. And again, as of the time we're recording this, and I haven't looked at Twitter in the last 13 minutes since I've been talking to you. I'll get to your questions again here in a minute, and then we'll continue on. We'll kind of go back and forth. So let's just say it's $4 million a year. 4 years, 5 years, you're talking $20 million. Sure, you got to pay taxes, you got to live and everything else, but you're putting a nice chunk of change in the bank to better your life and to better the lives of your children moving on. So I understand the decision as down on BC as I am for being a football black hole. I lived in the Northeast. I lived in New England for 2 years. I lived maybe 45 miles from the BC campus. It's been a long time since I've been up there, so somebody's going to be like, well, how far was it from here to Chestnut Hill? We'll just say 45 miles. I don't think I ever met anybody that openly talked to me about Boston College. And I was a high school junior and a high school senior. I don't ever remember a BC recruiter being up there. I don't remember any of my friends saying, really thinking about going to BC. It's there, but it is what it is. So let's get through a couple things here, and then we will I think what everybody wants to talk about is what's next. What's next? And none of us know. A lot of people are going to say they have ideas. We all talk to different people. And, I think we all think we know what the next path may be, but this is the thing in negotiations. I'm not involved in these negotiations. Ohio State with Gene Smith and not even Ross Bjork at this point. Ross Bjork does not really come on to Ohio State into an advisor role until March 1. But Ryan Day and Gene Smith and whoever these candidates are having the conversations. We could lay out a board and say, these are the 4 names that make the most sense. if it doesn't make sense to the candidate, then what good is that? If the candidate has demands that Ohio State's not willing to meet, what good is that? So, we'll see. We'll see. But let me get to a couple of things here. Billy Tuesday, I carried the clipboard at my high school for my high school head coach one year. I could do it. I think they need a little bit more than that. We've certainly seen through the years some coaches that have done that, or John Cooper Jr. carrying dad's wired communication cables and everything else. I think that the entry price is a little bit higher than that one. Frank Carone, Billy, you're hired. You see, Frank is a much more agreeable boss than I am, but Ohio State needs a little bit more than a clipboard guy. Odysseus, if Jason Candle is an option, I know he's not had NFL experience, but has had good run offenses at D3 and D1 levels. I'm going to get into Jason Candle here in a minute. Let's just go here. I'm just going to say, all right, Frank's asking who people are rooting for in the Super Bowl. We'll get into the Super Bowl in a little bit. Odysseus, best Super Bowl food, Kevin: wings, nachos, pizza, jalapeno poppers, or mott sticks. Well, anybody who follows me on Twitter at Kevin_noon knows that I am a member and the founder of Team Nachos. So nachos is always the answer, but real nachos, not taking some chips and taking some cheese and putting in the microwave and saying, look, nachos. That's no, you got to do them in the oven. You can sit there and have some of the shredded cheese, but you also need to have some of the Velveeta, Cheese Whiz, whatever. I like that canned cheese will probably take years off your life and varnish off of pennies, but that's what you need. You need a meat on there. You need some salsa, some black olives, which I know are polarizing, some jalapenos, some onions, definitely nachos. I got pizza anytime. I don't know if pizza is necessarily a Super Bowl item for me. I like wings, but the problem is that if you're going to do wings, sorry, Tony, if you're going to do wings, they have to be bone in. They have to be bone in. Now, people are going to be like, well, I saw you at Roosters eating boneless. Well, first of all, I don't call them boneless wings. They're just chicken chunks. And secondly, there are going to be times that I'm going to be at Roosters and I'm working on the computer and I can't have wing sauce up to my elbow and type on the computer. The fairy computer godmother is not there to get me a new computer. I bought my computer myself. I can't just, I'm going to have to bite the pill and have chicken chunks instead of full on wings if it's a working lunch. Jalapeno poppers are good, but I can't eat a lot of them. I can't eat a lot of jalapeno poppers. No, this is not a food challenge. Let's not start putting a line on how many jalapeno poppers I could eat. And it's not a heat thing. It's not a heat thing. I like spicy food. Last 10 years, I've seen my spice level go down a little bit. You get older, you get the reflux and everything else, and that's just bad news. And mott sticks are very one note. They're very one note. After 3 or 4 of them, I'm kind of tired of them. So nachos 1, wings 2, poppers 3, pizza 4, mott sticks 5. And I would even throw potato skins on there just due to a love of potato skins, but lots of sour cream with potato skins. Let's just keep going through here. If New Mexico can get into the pack, I can see Power 5 games in Albuquerque. Yeah. And ifs and buts were candy and nuts or whatever that is. I just don't know if that's going to happen. But then again, if the pack really wants to exist and do everything else, I mean, who knows? I want to get out to New Mexico. I want to go to the Hatch Festival one year. And it falls at the worst time of the year for what I do. I would really like to go out to New Mexico. I've not been out to the high desert. I really would like to see all of that. The problem is I'm not going to go out there in July, which is kind of the month that I can do things. It just seems miserable And I understand that you're dealing with this is not like, oh, that you're going to Death Valley or anything like that, where you're going to just be incinerated. But yeah, New Mexico's on my list of places that I would like to get out to. I want to go to the Hatch Festival. I'd like to see Albuquerque. I gotta go check out the Topes, the Springfield Isotopes when they moved to Albuquerque. The Albuquerque Isotopes. Hungry, hungry Homer. Mark Fetters has jumped in on the show. If I've missed anybody, I apologize. Steve Buckhold saying hit that thumbs up. I couldn't agree more. You need to get that in there. Terry saying if it's Chip Kelly, we should grab an OT from UCLA, or should we? I guess. Go Bucks. I mean, I guess you kind of check out what's there. I mean, I guess you kind of check out and see if Ozzie Trapillo from BC enters the portal. He was second team all ACC. I mean, there are certainly options that you're going to look at, and you're not necessarily, it's like, well, let's take this head coach so we can go rate his players. That's not, you can't do that. I'm not saying that Terry is suggesting that either. We have a super chat that I'll get to here in half a second. Let me move down to that. All right, there it is from Omar Austin. But I think you check out. I don't know enough about UCLA's O-line from this year. I guess that's something on my list of things to do. I should check them out if I do believe that that's the direction that they're going to go with Chip Kelly. Let me get to the super chat. How do you feel about fried pickles, and who do you see replacing Bill O'Brien? I'm not a big fried pickles fan. I don't know if I'm a huge pickles fan at this moment, and that's not fair. It's not like I'm going and picking off the pickles off a hamburger, but I'm not eating spears. I'm not doing any of that right now. If pickles occur naturally in a dish, that's fine, but I'm still not over the shell shock from the bowl game. And then who do I see replacing Bill O'Brien? We're getting to that. We're getting to that. And I don't know if I'm going to sit there and say that I have an answer. Well, I know I'm not going to say that I have an answer because I don't have an answer. But I think that everybody has, well, not everybody, but a lot of people have come to the conclusion that if it was not going to be O'Brien, it's going to be Chip Kelly. And I'm not so sure. Now, if Chip Kelly is announced today or tomorrow or in 8 days or in 14 days, I'm not going to come back and be like, wow, who would have thunk it? I was blindsided. I didn't see it coming. But I don't know if this was an either or proposition. It's either or Bill O'Brien, either or Chip Kelly. I know there were other names that went far down the path before hiring Bill O'Brien. Now, could some of these names have taken themselves out of consideration? Did they withdraw their application, so to speak? Were they eliminated because they weren't the right fit? Don't know. I wasn't really expecting upon the day that Bill O'Brien was hired to have to be talking about his replacement inside of a month. So you don't normally go in and do a deep dive after the fact on the other candidates because your assumption is that job's not going to open for 2, 3, 4, 10 years. So I don't know. But let me jump back to where I was, and then we will continue with some of the names. We got Odysseus throwing out potato skins as well as pretzel dogs. PB, it's getting to the point where Day should start demanding a decision and move on either way. It's like he's getting the most football. It's like he's the most important football coach in America simply because he's OSU's O coordinator. Well, he's got a decision. 20 minutes before we got on the air, the Boston College AD tweeted getting close. Now there is a window of time from we have all learned, whether it's Pete Thamel or somebody else, we have all learned that so-and-so is taking such and such job, and to the point of where the university makes its announcement. We are in that window. We're in that window now. O'Brien is gone. in my opinion. He's gone. So there's no decision there to be made. And in negotiations, it wouldn't have benefited Ohio State to say, Bill, bleep or get off the pot right now. We need a decision now. That's not the type of relationship that you want to have with your above the line top end personnel. If somebody in the concession stand is trying to jerk you around or whatever. I mean, but you did an extensive search to find an OC. You found the guy you liked, the guy you wanted. You can't sit there and hold his feet to the fire and be like, sink or swim, baby. You can't do that. But now we know he's gone, and everybody's going to want Ohio State to move with breakneck speed. Ohio State needs to have a new OC in place in 4 hours. Go. You can't do that. Now, Ohio State would be stupid to let this thing go 6 weeks. Everybody's going to draw a comparison to Ohio State's 10th coaching position. Why don't we know what's going on there? What's up with James Laurinaitis? Is it going to be a special teams coordinator? What's going on? Ohio State's in a position it can drag there. While I don't think Ohio State can really drag too much for the OC position, wouldn't you rather it take an extra week and you get the right guy again, than panicking to put somebody in that position? Ohio State spring ball starts in about a month. I don't know if I've seen a date yet, but I can tell you when it always is going to be. Whatever the week before spring break is at Ohio State, the week before, generally the Wednesday or so, is when it starts. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I don't want to dig one up. The reason you do that is that allows you to get whatever the number of hours are of work with your team, 20 hours the week before spring break. Then you have all of that contact time the week of spring break, and then you come back and you maintain it all the way through the spring game. So by doing that, in essence, you have the opportunity to kind of get an extra week with them. And it's not some sort of workaround that everybody's figured it out to a certain extent. And you just do it. I mean, it makes sense. So yeah, I want to have my OC in place by then. So does that give Ohio State 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks to put this together? Yeah, sure. And I'm not saying Ohio State should take it to the last second and the guys bringing in boxes as the players are coming into the Woody for the first practice. But again, moving too quickly and not thinking everything through, I think would be a mistake. The NFL season ends on Sunday. A champion is crowned, and that last wave of movement really goes. Now, what does that end up looking like? I don't know there. I don't know what's left, but everybody's talking about Chip Kelly this and Chip Kelly that. Has Seattle hired an OC yet? He seems to be in the mix there. I can't even keep track of the coordinator moves at this point. But it doesn't necessarily seem as if it's Ohio State competing against Ohio State only, I guess, and competing against UCLA for Chip Kelly. There is a very real possibility that Chip Kelly doesn't end up at UCLA or Ohio State. And then, of course, there's the question too about, can Chip Kelly swallow the ego and work for the guy that worked for him? Ryan was an assistant under Chip. And then in this scenario, Chip is going to have to be an assistant under Ryan. Not everybody can do that. You have to kind of swallow your pride a little bit. And it's like, well, if I want to keep on going, and Chip has a job at UCLA, but he seems every year to get mentioned as, oh boy, he's on the hot seat. He just doesn't seem to have it. It just seems to be coming to an end. You restart your clock, you go back to something that you're really good at, being a coordinator. Maybe you see this thing through. Chip Kelly could quit coaching and working today and be just fine. But coaches coach, and that's what they want to do, and they want to, they want to keep working. And hell, Nick Saban hasn't sailed off into the deep water at this point. He's going to go work for ESPN. Urban Meyer hasn't sailed off into the deep water. He's still working for Fox. So there you go. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit more and see here. I do not like fried green tomatoes. My wife does, but I don't. I don't like tomato products are fine. I love salsa. I'm not huge on ketchup, but that's just kind of more of a whatever the opposite of a sign of solidarity is. It's a Tony. I just not crazy about ketchup. I'm leaving all the ketchup to him. But I don't like diced tomatoes like on a taco. No. I don't really care for pico, but salsa's fine. And it's also going to have big chunks of tomato in it. I don't really care. But I don't, no. Fried green tomatoes, no. Michael's talking about Joe Moorhead, and that's a name that I certainly heard mentioned. That would make the week 1 game against Akron very interesting. But Ross Fulton had said some things on the Huddle board, and I highly recommend everybody checks the Huddle board out. Maybe his offense isn't necessarily something that is super congruent with Ryan Day. And let's not forget, we're only talking about 1 year where the offense really wasn't what it needed to be, and that was last year. I don't know if you're looking to like completely modify and rebuild a wheel here, and trying to figure out how to make a triangle roll. They have an offense that works. You need to have somebody who's calling it, who's responsible for it, who's putting some tweaks in it, who's keeping it updated, because your opponents are going to figure out what it is you do and what your tendencies are, and you've got to stay ahead of them. I've talked to some people about Joe Moorhead, and they are all very complimentary, and the term genius got thrown around a couple times. I don't know if that one is a great fit, and I'm basing that more off of what Ross Fulton was saying, and I highly recommend, once again, everybody go and get into some of the threads over there on the Huddle board. Join BuckeyeHuddle.com and check it out. He is much more. He has forgotten more about X's and O's today than I probably know. And that's not to say I don't know anything about X's and O's, but I am not one of these students of the game. I'm 52 years old. I mean, when I really was of the age of learning playbooks and things of that nature, it was a very different game. Very different game. So Ross and Devin Ratcliffe and Mickey Parrott, those are the guys that those are the guys that I lean on when it comes to these types of things. So that's my thought there. A name that a lot of people are throwing out on the board, and kind of as a pipe dream, is Mike Kafka, former Northwestern quarterback. Now, he certainly has become a hot name out there, but it probably is a bit of a pipe dream, but certainly a name that you have to think about as he's 36. He's with the Giants. What is this 23 minutes ago from the Giants? Let me see here. Did he get promoted or something? Let me see, because I could just take that right off of there. He has assistant head coach duties added to his role as OC. So I mean, again, pipe dream, because he just got another bump. Now, if he wants to get back into the college game, then fine. But the thing I'll say is, I don't know if I would be signing any long-term deals to any sort of subscriptions or anything as a member of the coaching staff of the New York Football Giants. I just don't think that highly of them right now, and I don't know what the right path is for them to get back. And as a Cowboys fan, I do not want them to get back. So take that for what it is. Another name that a buddy of mine mentioned and I'll mention this, and again, I don't want to get completely into everything that's on the board. I try not to take everything from behind the paywall out here. That would be shooting myself in the foot. Where How do I make a living? That message board. So I can't take everything out of there. But a name that he mentioned too was Ben McDaniels, the Texas wide receiver coach, passing game coordinator. Now, I don't know a ton about him, but I just think that is an interesting name to mention out there. I still think Jason Candle is a very realistic name. The Toledo head coach. We have seen coaches in group of 5 situations leave to take power 5, power 4 coordinator roles. After a while, do you get forgotten about? Are you getting slept on because you've been at XYZ state for 7, 8 years? And for a while, you were getting mentioned for every job. And then the phone starts ringing less and less, and then it stops ringing. Do you have to goose the system by going somewhere else and making another pass and picking up momentum to do that? And I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, and I'm not saying that somebody, doesn't like where they are right now. But I think that Candle is somebody that gets mentioned. I think that he is somebody who is on that contact again list. So, we'll see on that one. Let me keep scrolling. Bullet Train saying hello. What's up, Bullet Train? Diane Bickenstaff, heard Kelly is not a good recruiter and hasn't been impressive at UCLA. Better candidates out there. And there may well be better candidates out there. But again, here's the thing. Ohio State has to have dynamic recruiters pretty much across the board wherever it can. Jim Knowles is not a great recruiter. That's not being ugly. That's not being critical. That's just stating a fact. He's not really going to be the most dynamic recruiter. Can you afford to have somebody on the offensive side of the ball in your 10 counters who is not a great recruiter? Now, also remember this. Chip Kelly as a head coach is not the guy that's out there pounding the pavement and doing those types of things. The head coaching role on the recruiting trail is very different. That is a closer role. All the coffee in the world goes to the head coach. They're the ones who are out there to close and maintain. They are not the ones who are necessarily tasked with a lot of the acquisition. Now, moving Chip Kelly into that role, is he better suited there? Is he worse suited there? I don't know. And it hasn't been impressive at UCLA. They're just going to be guys that are better as a coordinator than as a head coach. And I think you can have all sorts of negative connotations about that. If cream's going to rise to the top regardless of where it is, or no, I mean, there's just going to be coaches that just are better suited to be a coordinator than to be a head coach. And we've seen it. We've seen it, and we will continue to see it. And what you bring Chip Kelly in for is to be the head coach of the offense. And the buck stops there on a lot of things. I mean, ultimately stops with Ryan. But, he's the one who's going to do the evaluation. He's going to be the one that puts a lot of this in there. He's going to be the one upstairs who's going to be calling the plays. All of that is very important. That's different, I think, than what he's doing on the sideline at UCLA. Now, I will be one to say that last couple of years, he's looked a little miserable out there. Not that the product has been miserable. I'm not saying that. I think Chip Kelly has not really been looking like he's enjoying things. Now, he's not PJ Fleck. He's not hopped up on pixie sticks and crank. And by that, I'm just saying that as just joking around. Don't put me on blast that I'm saying that this is what's going on. But, all the clapping and all of the excitement, that's just not Chip Kelly. That's just not Chip Kelly. That's PJ Fleck. That's some of these other coaches. But I think he needs a change of scenery regardless. I think he needs a change of scenery regardless. Everybody's like, we can't have better scenery than UCLA. That's a hard program to win at. And with this move to the Big Ten and everything else, I think it's going to take somebody 20 years younger and 15 times more explosive to deal with all of the pitfalls and challenges that are coming and dealing with Lincoln Riley crosstown at USC. I think in a lot of ways that Chip probably knows some of this stuff, whether or not he knows it like subconsciously. I don't know. Billy says, Day has been in the horn. I expect the whole staff to be set next week. I think that might be a little quick. But we'll see. My good friend, Mark Rogers. Kevin, getting the job done. Thank you, Mark. Be sure to check out everything at the Voice of College Football. Myself, Tony Gerdeman, and Steve Hellwagon of Bucknuts all appear on the Ohio State show, generally Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Hard to wrangle cats. All four of these cats have different things going on at all times. So be sure to hit the thumbs up over there and the bell and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out, because I can't tell you from week to week when we're on. And there's been more than one occasion where I have had a Twitter mention come in. It's like, in 5 minutes, Ohio State Buckeyes live. I'm like, shit, I forgot about it. So yeah, I probably should hit a bell too. Ben Higgins, it is warmer in Columbus and SoCal right now. Why do I pay for this again? I can assure you that, yes, I took the dog out right before the show just so she could do her business and everything else, and then put her in the crate because she's been very destructive here lately. And it was like, I don't need the top and everything else that I've got on, but I try to dress up for you guys when I can. I try to dress up, look presentable. You're in SoCal because of the 5 or 6 years that it's, or 5 or 6 days that it's warmer here than out there. The other 350 days, I can assure you, 355 days, your weather's much nicer. You don't have blizzards. You do have earthquakes. People are like, you must have been terrified of earthquakes. I'm like, not really. If an earthquake was going to get me, it was such a freak type of thing, then it was going to get me. But I didn't like live in fear of earthquakes. I didn't like not have stuff up on walls. I mean, I was a kid. I mean, I moved when I was 16. I didn't have stuff, off of walls because I was afraid it was going to crush me or something like that. There was a camp I used to go to that there was a little stream that ran through the camp that was right on top of the San Andreas Fault. We always thought it was funny to go out and eat our breakfast on the little bridge. It's like, oh, if the world opens up, we're going to fall straight through. A bunch of little morbid kids we were. But, it is what it is. That was a long time ago. Let me keep going through there. Aaron Taylor saying Mel Tucker's still available. Pass. Terry mentioning Jason Candle and Dan Mullen. I don't know if the Dan Mullen one has ever really made a ton of sense to me. We don't know what we don't know. I'm not going to go on record and be like, oh, this coach, F him. And I'm certainly not saying that here. That one just doesn't make a ton of sense. He seems to be really happy doing what it is he's doing right now. But you never know. The thing is like, there's so many coaching searches that I've been involved with outside of Ohio State and various other roles and stuff like that. And it's either going to be the guy that is like the total obvious pick, or it's going to be somebody that nobody's talking about. It's rarely in between. Somebody makes so much sense, it's going to be them, or somebody just comes out of left field. I had moved away. I was living in Dallas when John Cooper left and Jim Tressel was hired. Now, granted, I was not on the Ohio State beat living in Dallas, Texas at that point. So I wasn't getting as much information and everything else, but I didn't know who Jim Tressel was. didn't know who Youngstown State really was. I mean, I was aware of them. I lived in Ohio for 10 years. Didn't live in a vacuum. I knew that they had success at that level, but I never really thought it was going to be him. So there's something to be said that sometimes it is that guy way out on the periphery that you're not necessarily thinking about that falls into a role. We can all sit there and say 150 different ways. Chip Kelly makes the most sense. Chip Kelly makes the most sense. Yada, yada, yada. UCLA is like, well, we don't want to go through a coaching search here in mid-February. Let's rework his deal a little bit. I don't think this is a money play by Chip Kelly. Let's rework his deal a little bit and lock him back down. I think his buyout's 1.5 right now. We'll find some ways to keep Ohio State and the Seattle Seahawks out of their yard. So, I don't know. Let me keep scrolling down here. Tom and Debbie Flynn, what about Michigan hiring Wink Martindale? Well, first of all, it's not the game show host. Probably would have been a better hire. Wink Martindale has found himself in and out of work here recently. Now, there's not as much stigma about a coach getting dumped a few times during their career. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a zero-sum game. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. And Wink Martindale's been on the side of teams that have lost a decent amount. Everybody was talking about Joe Cullen being the guy with the Chiefs. And then he basically was like, let's slow this down. I kind of want to see how everything's going to play out, which in English is pass. So Michigan brings Wink Martindale out yesterday afternoon, and he's hired by today. He certainly has some name recognition. I have not had any of my NFL bros come out and say, oh my God, what a great hire. I've had a couple of them come out and it's like, what a marginal hire. I mean, he's got a deep coaching tree that he's worked with that he can help fill some slots with him at Michigan, but he is not Mike McDonald. He's not, he's not these guys. This is going to be different. I don't think it's a great hire. But then again, I don't know if I necessarily, when John Harbaugh kicked over his first guy to Jim, I don't know if I was like, oh my God, what a great hire. But that was more of a case of an unknown. Wink Martindale's a known. And I've known for a while that it hasn't been great. So there's my thoughts on there. Drowsy Dragon is saying the odds-on favorite to emerge is the backup to Howard. I don't know. And nobody else does. Nobody has thrown a pass of consequence in practice because they can't practice until the start of spring practice. If you look at star ratings and everything else, yeah, Julian Sayin is damn impressive. So is Aaron Noland. So is Lincoln Kienholz. Devin Brown was a 5-star. I mean, all these guys all come out of, very great situations. Do you want your backup quarterback to be a true freshman and have to throw him out there if something happens, especially with a quarterback who is more of a mobile quarterback the way that Will Howard is? I mean, I think we should even back this up to the point of, are we sure Will Howard is a starter? Officially, I can't say that. Unofficially, I think he probably is. But you're having a competition. Let's not forget, and everybody drink, because I've said this before. Spencer Sanders left Oklahoma State to go to Ole Miss. He couldn't beat out Jackson Dart. Spencer Sanders sat. Now, am I expecting Will Howard to play the role of Spencer Sanders? No. But nothing is given. Nothing is for certain. So I don't know. I think I would rather my backup have a little experience, but the problem is that nobody really has experience. Sayin and Nolan have none. They are true freshmen. They have none. They have high school. Lincoln Kienholz has very little, and the experience he's had, he probably needs to see a therapist over. because he came in to the Cotton Bowl and was thrown to the Lions. And then Devin Brown has a little experience, but not a ton himself because of Ryan Day's policy of playing the starter and then playing the starter some more and still playing the starter. So nobody really has that much experience back there, but I don't know. If I had to guess, I'm going to say Howard Keenholz. I think Keenholz is the 2. But I don't know. And what things look like August 30th and what things look like November 1st can be different. Things change. People progress at their own rates. So I don't know. It's a tough question to answer. And I know Drowsy doesn't really expect me to, go on the record and lock it down and be like, I'm a 5,000% sure on here. There are other people out there that sit there and make these bold proclamations and throw a lot of crap out there. And when they hit on 1 of 10, they tell you how smart they are. I'm the first one to tell you I'm smart enough, but not enough to brag. Not enough to brag about it. But yeah. Aaron Taylor thinks that Sayan is on the Joe Burrow Quinn Ewers trajectory, which I assume means transferring. That's pretty premature. That's extremely premature. We don't know. We don't know. Quinn and those two were not on the same trajectory as it was. Joe Burrow had, he had opportunity. He injured his hand. He got passed up by Dwayne Haskins because he was not physically ready because he had a busted hand. Quinn Ewers, he reclassified and never really seemed to be invested and was on the first train to Clarksville and was gone. So those two were not on the same trajectory. And let's not forget, Joe Burrow's first year at LSU was unremarkable. Joe Burrow made Joe Brady, and Joe Brady made Joe Burrow. Joe Brady, another name that people have mentioned potentially. But, again, some of these names have already gotten bumps. And we know that nobody would ever get a bump or a new job and then leave for yet another new job. So, I don't want to write people off because they've done that, because it happens. It's happened. We're talking about it. But, I don't know. I think right now I see like on news programs or whatever, they like give you like $100 worth of chips and you put your chips on your candidates or whatever. I'm putting like $60 of my $100 on Chip Kelly. I'm going to put 15 on Jason Candle. That gives me 75. I have 25 left. Put 10 on the field. That leaves me 15 left. I'll put I got 15 left. Who else do I want to sit there and say? I'll put 5 on Kafka as a long shot. You know what? I'll put those other 10 on the field. I'll put 25 on the field because I think it's still a little more wide open than we would think. Now, again, post the shows up live. It's going to go up there in 96 hours or something like that. They'll name Chip Kelly and it's be like, why were you so non-committal? I just don't have faith that it's always going to be the first name that we're talking about. It just doesn't work out that way. Drowsy says Candle should be the choice. Young on the rise, an Ohio guy. Youngish. Has he fizzled out a little bit? Has he flickered out? Has Candle flickered out a little bit at Toledo? When you look at the MAC and he's still doing very well in the MAC, is he getting mentioned for jobs the way that he used to? No. But, I think that's there. But I also think that you need to have somebody who comes in and fills the role of what Bob did for 3 weeks. You want to have that guy that is kind of from outside of the loop, who the offensive coaches have to kind of answer to, who doesn't kind of get caught up in all the minutia of it all. Nobody was going to sit there and talk back to Bill O'Brien. And I'm not saying that Jason Candle can't handle that or whatever, but they I think that there was a certain thing that they were looking for. And I think it's important too that whoever is brought in is somebody that Ryan Day trusts implicitly to be able to call the offense, because I don't want to be having this conversation in 8 months about, is Ryan Day still calling the offense? He's told us all the reasons of why he's giving up the duties, but also with the thought of losing Bill O'Brien, which is now a reality. Does he double back? It's like, well, I don't think anybody there is really ready. So I don't know. I don't know. And again, that's why I think Chip Kelly makes a ton of sense, but I'm not really ready to put more than 65 cents there. Eddie, the Toledo head coach might be coming to build his image over again as a coach, or Chip Kelly just to limit his workload as a head coach in today's day and age of college football. Eddie and I, we kind of see eye to eye in some of those things. Those are things I talked about right there. Bullet Train asking about my pick. I mean, I know I'm kind of behind on the chat, so I kind of gave you my thought. Eddie says, keep up the good work. Steve Buckholz is talking about living in SoCal. I mean, we've had conversations offline about all of that. We're both SoCal guys. Let me keep going here. Troy V says, I don't live in a vacuum. Too bad. You could have got you a good deal from some dude, Dayton Connor, on a refurbished model. I live in a Dyson. I don't think he can work on a Dyson. I live in a Dyson vacuum. Granted, it's a Dyson vacuum that we've had since I got married, basically when I moved back to Ohio in 2006, and we've had pretty much rebuilt twice. Let me keep going through here. Some very good advice from my friend Mark Rogers. Hit the like, everyone. Yes, please hit the like. I'll give you a couple seconds here to hit that like button. That really helps us out with the algorithm, helps us get the message out more. More people see our content. We have a lot of times we have shows that do huge numbers. I did a show yesterday on the NFL draft with Ian Cummings of Pro Football Network. Didn't hit big numbers yet. I'm thinking that the SEO machine will get it out there, but hit that like, because that helps us as much as anything. 3, 2, 1, hit that button, please. I appreciate it. Hummus Hero has Candle flickered out. Kevin just manufactures witty puns without hesitation. You throw enough bleep against the wall, some of it's bound to stick. And that's what I do. I hang my hat on the quality, but I do hit quantity at times just to see. And I do kind of test some things out. The candle flickered out was on the fly right there as we're closing in on an hour. So let me see where else we are. Troy V again talking about Chip Kelly and recruiting. Show me the example of where Chip Kelly was recruiting for somebody else, though, like like he was the underling. And that's such an awful term, I know, but I mean, it's different. But as I said earlier, Knowles is not a tremendous recruiter. Kelly reportedly is not a tremendous recruiter. But if Kelly comes in and is the quarterback's coach, we know who's recruiting quarterbacks. Ryan Day could be the CEO all he wants. He's also going to be the quarterback coach in a lot of ways in terms of recruiting. And I know Ohio State recruits positionally and territorially. You recruit your position across the board, and then, okay, Tony Alford, you get South Florida. So-and-so, you get Northeast Ohio. So-and-so, you get the Pacific Coast. I mean, if you put Chip Kelly as recruiting quarterbacks along with Ryan Day, and you give him the Pacific West Coast, how do things really change? They're not recruiting modern day that well. It just doesn't happen. I mean, Jordan Davison, the running back, that would be a great chance for Ohio State to break through at modern day. First player landed there since Nikki Sualua. I think that if you sit there and you brought in Chip Kelly and said, okay, you have to recruit offensive linemen, and he's having to put his hands on a lot of different recruitments, that's not necessarily where you want to go. And it's not like you can sit there and say, Brian Hartline, Tim Walton, we need you to carry this load. But I don't know. I think if there are 10 check boxes and 9 of them are yes, and the 10th one is recruiting and that's a no, I think that's still enough of the boxes being checked off to make it work if you do an installation type of plan. Not to go back into history, Ed Warner was not a great recruiter. Ed Warner's players would have run through a brick wall for him. His players, once they bought in, were 5,000% on board. If you were a recruit and weren't so sure about Ed Warner, he was a little bit of an odd fellow. I really liked Ed. He was fun to talk to. He was an odd bird. Takes one to know one. He was an odd bird. But that is more problematic. Greg Studrara, not really a great recruiter. His players liked him. I don't know if they were as entrenched as Ed's were. But if you put him in a position where he's recruiting an area where ultimately it's going to be the position coach that's going to have to do the most of the heavy lifting, and Ryan Day is backing you up and recruiting players, I think you can make it work, especially because I don't think you're talking about a 10-year marriage here. I don't think you're talking about a coach who's coming in for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I think this is more of a 2, 3, 4 type of deal. So I don't know. Let me see. Fisherman says Chip Kelly to OSU is happening. I don't know what the hell is happening in the world right now. I really don't. Pete Thamel, as of 3 minutes ago, Ohio State is expected to target UCLA coach Chip Kelly as the school's next OC. A deal could come together as soon as today. Breaking freaking news. There you go. I will put the body of that here in the chat. I skipped a super chat. No, Omar, I got your super chat, unless you put a second one in there. This is from Pete Thamel right here. Sources, Ohio State is expected to target UCLA coach Chip Kelly as the school's next OC. A deal could come together as soon as today. Let's just rewind the whole damn hour. Let's just rewind the whole damn thing. It's better that we're doing this live than I spent an hour recording this and had to throw it away. Omar did put a second one in here. Omar, my bad. You're right. I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Coach Day's demeanor scream Bob was leaving at his press conference? His demeanor screamed, I don't know. I'm skeptical that we will be able to retain him. I don't think anything on Wednesday was determined, but I don't think at any point did Chip Kelly say, I'm really not interested in this job, or it's highly unlikely that I'm going to take it. Ryan Day had to kind of talk to us because it was National Signing Day, and granted, there was only one player, Dom Kirks, who signed out of Painesville, Harvey. Or was it Harvey or Riverside? I don't know, but out of Painesville. So that's my thought on there. Omar, my apologies. I know you're dipping into the grocery money by super chatting for us. I really appreciate you. I appreciate some of the text messages and everything else. You're a good friend. I appreciate you bunches. Somebody immediately jumping in drowsy about the offensive tackles at UCLA. If I weren't on the air, I would be looking at that right now. And I'm in the window, and I've got to do another show in 10 minutes. So we're going to be off here in about 5. And no, it's not one of my shows. It's a show up in Mansfield, Swank on Sports. So keep an eye out on that. I'm sure we'll be talking about this on his show. PB says, I actually like this better than Bill O'Brien. It's like a father-son reuniting. Day was a star quarterback. We'll see how the dynamics work. I'm I'm excited about this, and I want to go back to the recruiting thing. If he he being Chip Kelly comes into your school as a recruiter, isn't there at least something more of like, hey, I'm gonna listen to this. I know that he's not going to be my head coach, but do you listen to it a little bit more? I think it opens up some doors. I think that in some ways it might help you a little bit with your West Coast recruiting, at least in terms of getting you an audience. His history with UCLA, some of his other stops. So maybe I'm just trying to paint a big old smile on this. I don't know, but I'm interested in this. I think it's interesting. Here we go. Troy V. Michigan fans always care more about what we're doing than with what their team does. Well, we talked about Wink Martindale here. You guys asked, and we talked about it. And it seems like they're going to keep Clink Scale, which I think is very important for their product. But I just say, and I don't hang out on other networks shows, so I don't know if they get a lot of Michigan people over there. I just say it's because we have such great shows that they come on there. And I know, oh, Noon, you're so arrogant. Well, maybe a little. What I think it comes down to is that we try to keep it entertaining. If the conversation goes into pickle eating challenges, or the conversation goes into pop culture, or Tony's love of Nick Cage movies, or things like that, then we're going to do that. There are going to be people who are like, well, yeah, but your shows get so long winded. And yes, if you have a 15-minute commute to the office, you're not going to be able to hear the whole show home and away. You're just not. I get it. But, I view our shows as all of you and myself are sitting at a sports bar. Maybe we don't have a beer in our hands here at 2:07 p.m. Eastern time, but we're having a good conversation, and we're going to talk about anything and everything except one or two topics. So, there you go. Donald, who came up with this no way Chip Kelly, if you want to step down from a head coaching position at UCLA to fill an offensive coordinator job? I don't know if I'm following exactly what your comment is, Donald. So, like, resubmit. I'll stay on the air. I'll stay on the air for another 10 minutes. Resubmit, because I either I'm not with it today. I did have a couple pops last night, or it's not clear to me, and I don't want to sit there and half-ass your reply. So hit me back. Aaron Taylor, fan, but I subscribe because it's entertaining content. It's well produced. I don't agree with you all often, but I can't deny it's a quality product. And I thank you, Aaron. And that's the thing. And if Michigan fans are subscribing, and we do have a couple of very solid Michigan posters, Ferris, who I've not seen recently, not since the end of the season, a couple others. I don't want the chat to become an echo chamber. I don't need it to be everybody singing Kumbaya and agreeing lockstep 100% of the time. I don't like the fights. As much. But I think there can be some differing opinions. And it keeps it fun. My text messages are blowing the hell up, so I'm hoping Donald hits me back with this so I can jump off and have 5 minutes before I jump on this other show. Sneaking suspicion I'm going to probably end up on another one of our shows to talk about Chip Kelly today too. So we'll see there. Larry says that I'm a hoot. Well, I appreciate it. Again, I think as I do more of these shows, I get a little more comfortable. It's never that I've been uncomfortable doing these shows. I think there are times that I'm just like, I don't have anything to say. And if I don't feel like I have anything entertaining to talk about, nobody out there is going to feel like this show's any entertainment. What I need to get better at is just promoting the show. But just so you know, 3 times a week here on the Big Me Kickoff, presented in part by our friends over at No Naturals. Be sure to check out the scroll for those of you watching us on YouTube for the information there. If you're listening on the podcasting platforms, in the show notes, I will have the link including the affiliate link that has code SUPER20 for 20% off of your order for these dispensary quality gummies, where you not only choose your flavor, but you choose your vibe. I mean, it's really good. Chris says that he really enjoys the podcast. Well, I enjoy everybody who takes part in checking us out, and I welcome everybody to check us out on BuckeyeHuddle.com as well. Here you get me once a week live, a couple weeks recorded. Buckeye Huddle, you get me all the time. All of my thoughts, all my ramblings, all of the interaction between Tom, Tony, and myself, giving each other grief, all of Mark Givler's recruiting insights, all of our X's and O's from Ross Fulton, Mickey Pettit, Devin Radcliffe, just making sure I go through all the lists. Also, in terms of some team stuff, Jacob Binge has been helping us out there too. Don't want to forget him. All at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Be sure to check it out. But we are just celebrating here. We are in the final 5 minutes of the show. Super chats will keep us on a little bit longer, but I do have to do this show in the next 4 minutes. No rest for the wicked. I'm going to have to go from show to show. Landon saying, do you think of that BC tackle? Any new updates? I've not heard anything about Ozzie Trapillo yet. I think what it's going to come down to is he's probably going to want to sit there and wait until Bill O'Brien is named, have the team meeting, maybe have one-on-one meeting with him, see if he likes him, see if he vibes there. And if not, he may jump in the portal. If he likes it, he'll stick around. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to at that point. And I think that's the right way to do it. There are going to be guys who are like, well, my coach left. I'm out of here. I'm gone. And then they're going to be the guys like, all right, I'm playing the longer game. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see who the new dude is. Now, I'm not going to screw myself out of my opportunity. I'm not going to miss my window to leave. But I'm going to give the new guy a chance. I know how to get to the dining hall. I know where the football facility is. I got a hot girlfriend here, whatever. I'm going to wait. I'm going to give him every opportunity to make good. And it sounds like Ozzie is giving them every opportunity. I mean, he may not go into the portal. I mean, and it doesn't mean, oh, well, what a dummy. No, it just means that, I mean, I had the opportunity. When I went to Ohio State, and because my dad had lost his job and I was going to go to Pepperdine. And I was like, well, I'll go to Ohio State for a year and then I'll go to Pepperdine. I fell in love with Ohio State and I didn't leave. I also grew up in a strict household, didn't drink, didn't get to do any of that type of stuff. I wasn't sure if anywhere else they had this thing called beer. I didn't know if anywhere else that they had all these hot co-eds or whatever. I mean, well, obviously they do at Pepperdine. I can assure you of that. But I didn't know, so I wasn't going to take a chance. I wasn't going to go anywhere else. My roots planted quickly and deeply in that first year at Ohio State. Terry says, I'm a man of the people. Content matters. I appreciate you for sure. Doug Shepard saying, weather permitting, how about a pregame tailgate show on April 13th? We'll see what we can do there. What I would really like to do is, and I know a lot of people are going to drive in the day of the game, and I'm going to end on this one, unless a super chat comes in, because I've got to get ready for this other show. I would like to do something Friday night. Find a bar or something like that and do something the Friday night. Now, the people who are driving in the day of the game, and that's going to be a lot of people, because I don't think people are going to come in from Albuquerque or Bangor, Maine, or Meridian, Idaho, or something like that for the spring game. But I'd like to find a way to do that. But it's really difficult for us in a lot of ways to do. We can't host anything. First of all, none of us have, an RV or, a van, a Sprinter van or anything like that. Plus two, we're there for a very specific reason to cover the event and so on and so forth. We can't get there early, set up, break down. But I would like to be able to find a way to do something. Meeting and greeting all of our great members, whether it's here just on the YouTube channel or it's on the site or a combination of the both, is a top priority of mine, but it's not always easy to make happen. So we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. We have a couple months. Y'all know how to reach me. My email address is my old email address, and I just re-upped it for 2 more years, Kevin@BuckeyeGrove.com. That is how you can reach me directly. If you remember the site, you can just shoot me a DM over there. So there you go. Aaron says, I still want a Noons Nobody segment. You're gonna have to fill me in on that one, Aaron, the next time we're on the air. But we are at an hour 15 on a show that I was hoping maybe would only go 30. I'm going to be getting a text message from Jeff Swank on Sports here in a second saying, you ready? So we will do that. Frank Carone would like to buy me a beer. We'll figure it out. Y'all have my email address. You know how to get in touch with me. I want to thank everybody for being part of the show. And I'm very excited about the fact we had some breaking news here. Keep it locked onto the channel. I have a feeling we could be talking about this some more today. But until the next time, I want to thank you all. I want to thank our friends at No Naturals as well. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl and be safe.